Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kwadash. Double honor to my apostles and bishops of Great Millstone. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, which are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And you also have Israelites scattered amongst the other nations. Those Israelites are known as the Israelite foreigners. Okay. Want to go into this article from CNN.com dealing with the latest news. All right, it says Trump says he's not looking for a deal with the EU, which is the European Union, after threatening a 50% tariff. Okay, so it looks like tension between the European Union, economic tension that is between the European Union and the United States. Okay, we know that the EU is an ally of America, all right, or they're part of this power structure. Okay, all right, this power structure is consisted of U.S. being a forefront, but their allies as well. All right, namely NATO and the EU. Okay, which the EU is falling apart. You had Great Britain leave the EU several years back, which was a prophetic event, a biblical event, because the scriptures tell you how the one that funded America or founded America, which was Great Britain, shall be sore confounded, because the mother of the U.S., if you will, is Great Britain. Okay, but they left the EU several years ago. So now, we're seeing tensions rise, man. And, you got Donald Trump with his entitlement mentality, all right, or his stout mentality, because the scriptures say, roughly paraphrasing, I'm not saying it verbatim, but, his look was more stout than his fellows, all right. Donald Trump is an embodiment of that, man, all right. Very proud, okay, entitled, and narcissistic, all right, and thinking that he's the main character. So with that being said, let's read. It says President Donald Trump on Friday threatened a 50% tariff on goods from the European Union, citing a lack of progress in current trade negotiations. All right, so just something to think about, as us as watchmen, we watch out for the reports, and we do videos on them. We teach on it. All right, how does it relate to the Bible and prophecy and the times we in? It's part of measuring the times, man. Okay, people was all relieved over China and the U.S. having a small negotiation. All right, which is only gonna be for a certain period of time. All right, they said I think 90 days. All right, then they're gonna have to renegotiate. All right, but America's still trillions and trillions of dollars in debt and rising. Okay, and these other nations, they have no desire to invest or share their goods for U.S. dollars, man, or share their resources for U.S. dollars. And that's why you have the opposing parties, such as the BRICS Alliance, and that's what this whole war is going to be about, man. Because the one side, which is America and Israel, they want to establish dominance. All right, they want to establish dominance and control, but you have the resistance, man. Which is these other nations banding together, man. Okay, so with that being said, I don't have anything lined up, but let's go into a couple scriptures, man. Okay, we'll start with Obadiah. start with Obadiah. Get straight to the point. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and have prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Right. So the men of thy confederacy is talking about the allies of Esau. All right. Esau is the daughter of Babylon. All right. Meaning he is the ruler of Babylon. Okay. He's in power here in America. Okay. The scriptures say the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Now, America is the superpower in the world. All right. Majority of these countries still use the U.S. dollar, you know, in transactions for oil and other resources, so forth and so on. Okay. So it's talking about America's allies, man. We talking about, you know, EU, NATO, and even some of their enemies that still, you know, want to do business to make profit. Okay. They're deceiving America. They're just using it, man. Okay. That's why America in the scripture is known as Babylon the Great. And it is also referred to as the harlot, man. Okay. You know. So these nations are going to turn their back on America, man. All right, they're going to stop using U.S. dollars. They're going to use their own currencies, you know. And we're also coming to a time where the U.S. dollar is going to be obsolete because, you know, we're approaching a cashless society. Okay. You know, cash is going to be a thing of the past because really cash has no value. Okay. Cash really doesn't have any real value besides being backed by the oil markets. Okay. Or the petrol markets. So let me see. What did I want to get? Jeremiah 51. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. It says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. Right, that's America. America had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. All right. America was known as this beacon of light. All right. This exalted place above all other places in this time that we living in. All right. People to this day still want to come to America because they're still led to believe that America is the land of prosperity. Okay. You know, America is the place where you can, you know, start a new life and you know, they call it the land of the free and the home of the brave. You know, it's a seducing spirit that comes with America, man. All right. So it says that made all the earth drunken. Right. America made all the earth drunken, man. Okay. And what proves that, let's go to Revelation 17. Real quick. Revelation 17. Right? So we'll go straight to the point. Revelation chapter 17. We'll start at verse 3. It says, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Right. So the woman is America. Okay. The harlot. All right. This woman is a whore. This woman is a harlot. All right. This woman is a nasty freak, you know, opening her legs to anyone that will be in compliance with her ways, right? Verse 4, it says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Right. You know, that cup is the drink which, basically is to basically pour out that philosophy, man. All right. The ways of America. Okay. But yeah, it said the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones. All right. So this woman is beautiful on the outside, but in reality, this woman is on the inside a disgusting, wicked, evil, and foul woman. Okay. Nasty, disease carrying, STD carrying harlot, man. That's America. Okay. And like I said, the golden cup, you got these nations drinking of her wine. All right. Meaning what? Taking on the philosophies, the mentality, the ways of America, man. The ideologies, man. Democracy, LGBTQ community. Okay. So forth and so on, man. Women's lib. Okay. So let's go back to what I was reading in Jeremiah 51. That's because I don't want to make this too long. Right. So going back to Jeremiah 51 and verse 7, it says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. All right, all these different nations. Okay, we always say the nations are in bed with America. Okay, China, Russia, even, their allies, the EU, okay, North Korea, Iran, they all did business with America. These African countries, the whole world, man. Okay, because every nation dwells here in America, man. They all had stake or have stake here in America. Okay. So it's talking about all these different nations, taking on the ways of America. Because the Edomites, so-called white people, they're looked at as, the scriptures call them Lucifer, the light bearers, man. So these nations, they look up to the so-called white man for guidance and counsel and understanding and knowledge, man. Okay, and he's the most feared nation because of their reputation. Esau is not just that. Not only are they looked at as wise and like you said, bountiful, like the scripture says, bountiful. Okay, because they're not looking at, they're starting to be looked at as being hated, but for a long time they were looked at as being bountiful, okay, noble, brave, wise, all right, and also violent, man, and because Esau, he had a reputation for dropping bombs on nations, being violent, taking over nations through the force of the sword, enslaving nations. And you Edomites, you so-called white people, by the way. Okay, we just got to throw that out there. The Edomites, the descendants of Esau, are you so-called white people. All right, and that's who we're talking about. All right, being violent, like I said, being covetous, taking away fields, all right, taking away resources from, natives of these different lands, enslaving them, rape, robbing, and murdering. The scriptures say the thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and destroy. All right. And then they find creative ways to keep people in a pacified state, or a sleep state, all right, or a blinded state of mind, that is. So there you go. Right. This is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 15. It says, "Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, and that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken, also that thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." Right. Because Esau's, all of his so-called accomplishments is going to be taken away from him, or it's going to be, like I said, shameful spewing is going to be on those false accolades, on those false accomplishments, because everything that he did was through the sword, through his blessing, which is the sword, okay, through deception, through slander, through lies, and through violence, man. All right. So it said, "Want him that giveth his neighbor drink, and puttest thy bottle to him." Right. And that's what Esau, the Edomites, did, man. All right. To all nations. Okay. They got all these different nations in the trick bag, man. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me go to that scripture. I said this is gonna be the last one, but I'll make this one the last one. Right. So Revelation 20, verse 7, it says, Revelation 20 and 7, "And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea." Right. So, the Edomites, all right, they came into power during the time of the Renaissance. Okay, when it says 1,000 years, it's talking about the 1,000 years that Esau was in slavery. Okay, Esau fell from his rulership in the Roman Empire during the time of the Dark Ages. All right, that Satan is talking about the so-called white man, Esau, Edom. Okay, and he went out to deceive the nations. Okay, the nations being who? All these different nations. Okay, because now they rule over the whole world, man. Okay, pursuant to Job 9 and 24, man. Okay, and like I said, and that's why where it says in Habakkuk about giving thy neighbor drink to make them drunken, that's what Esau did, man. Part of that drink was the deception, man, the lies, man. All right, so the point was